Okay, guys, welcome to this week's Friday Waffle. I have literally given Delboy about 30 seconds notice that he's going to take part in a waffle. You didn't see that one coming, did you?
No, I didn't see that coming. I was about to go to bed.
Right, you can blame my girlfriend Lee for that, because I sat down about an hour ago and I started talking, and I was about 15 minutes in, and then the bloody phone went, and then about 40 minutes later, I'm like, I don't even know what I was talking about, and I'm like, oh, I can't be asked. I couldn't be bothered. I hadn't written anything down. I thought, I can't even remember what I was talking about, so I thought, I'll get Craig in and he can talk pish for about 40 minutes.
Yeah, I can certainly do that. And that, what I've mentioned at the bottom, was just a joke, because I thought I was just going to have a chat, and I thought, and that comes across as unsympathetic, because the news on today, I tell you what, I'm so angry about P&O. P&O have just sacked 800 people by a team call that took 3 minutes, and even hired security guards to get them all off of the boats. And it angered me so much. So when you came on and said, "Oh, do you know what? I'll just put something topical at the bottom." So I put Delboy P&O job advisor, which was
that's a bit fucking insensitive.
But that's disgusting how they've done that.
So is that the entire P&O ferries staff that they've basically laid off?
I don't know if it's the entire lot, but they've got round a legal loophole, because they hire out staff. Do you know what I mean? They use a third-party company to employ their staff. So basically, they could just turn around and say, "We're not using that company anymore, and we're going to use another company," and that means that 800 staff are suddenly out of a job.
You know what, mate? Nothing surprises me at the moment. I don't want this to be a negative waffle, but I've said before, I think the world's fucked. My problems are completely insignificant, utterly insignificant. But as I've said before, and it's true, it doesn't matter what shit is going on in the world. I mean, there's lots of bad shit going on just now. We, as human beings, we have still got to exist. I've still got to get out of my bed in the morning. I've still got to go to work, because if I don't have a house. I don't have a roof over my head. But as we all know, petrol. I've got a hybrid car, and 6 months ago it would take £47 of petrol. That would fill up 47 quid. I filled it up 2 days ago, and it was almost £62.
Yeah, it went to 171 today in my area, 171, and I thought, bloody hell.
So there you are. There's petrol. I just got my. I don't mind talking about it online. I was paying 76 quid a month for my fuel, and then about 6 months ago, I was with Eon. 6 months ago, they wrote to me and said, "By the way, you're underpaying. We're going to put it up to 92, I think it is." So it went up to 92. Excuse me. I checked my account. I don't normally check my energy account. I logged in the other day there, and I think I'm something like £280 in the red. So I'm due them 280 quid. And then I got an email yesterday saying that my new direct debit is going to be £197.
Yeah.
It was gone from 92 to 197. And then to top it off, I saw an email today or on the paper saying that the interest rates are going up to their highest ever in Christ knows how long. So I reckon, me personally, and again, I am extremely, I've got to stress this, I am extremely fortunate that I can afford it. It just means I've got less money to spend to buy shit with. But I reckon, me as an individual, I'm probably going to be £200 less in my pocket each month.
Yeah. I made a decision after I paid for the service on my car that I'd put about £500 into my mother's account. Just get all the money out, that I could possibly done. put it into my mother's account, and then of course when she pays for her electric bill, she's got a bit of a buffer, because that will probably last 2.5 months with the hike in the petrol. And I don't know quite what's going to happen with my job after the meeting on Tuesday. So I thought, well, I might as well put a big chunk of money in and say, look, at least I've paid the gas and the electric and a little bit, to get us into the next couple of months, because you've got to plan these things now for the next year. And the more I look at it, with the fuel going up and a war and the gas and the electric going up and inflation going up today, I mean, I'm just going, I have no idea now.
I think.
Let me just turn my light on anyway. You carry on waffling.
Yeah. I was just what? All right, he's away. He's gone. Right. I was going to ask you what do we want to watch? I think we should get I don't know what he's watching. Some porn film, possibly. I don't know. We can ask him.
I was watching the news, wasn't I?
I thought it was some porno film you had on in the background. Sorry, if you put bloody porn on, I'll get a copyright strike. Jesus Christ, man.
I'll just.
What you doing? Dearie me, folks. Listen, never work with animals, children, or Delboy. He just fucking goes off. Well, he's seen me there in 2 minutes. Right, okay. Anyway, yeah, what have I been up to this week? What have I been doing? Monday, I can't remember. Saturday, or more specifically, Saturday morning. About 1 o'clock in the morning, I got woken up with loud music, and it's since transpired that my next door neighbour, it was his stag do, and he's got one of these. There are two phrases that I detest: man cave and man flu. Fuck off with your man flu. It's flu. Man cave. What does that mean? It's woman that came up with that. Oh, my man cave. First world problems. Anyway,
I don't mind man cave, but man flu really annoys me.
No, I don't like that bollocks. I'm going to call it. It's a posh shed that he's got. I mean, he's a builder, and he's done a cracking job. He's got I don't know what size his screen. It's probably bigger than the screen you've got behind you. He's got this massive screen. He's got a bar. He's got music, and he's got really loud speakers. I know that because at 4 o'clock in the morning I could hear his bloody music playing. But anyway, eventually it went down, and I had my cook Sula. Lee was away early because she had a funeral on Saturday morning, so she was none too pleased. I was up after 4 hours sleep. Went to cook Sula. I was like a bloody burst mattress, really, really tired. I was fine for a couple of days, but I've noticed in the last 3-4 days, I just feel absolutely bloody knackered. I don't know whether I'm positive, whilst I'm not personally depressed or anything about anything. I just think that all the shit that's going on, it wears you down. It just wears you down to the point you're like, oh, I can't be bothered.
Well, I sort of got this watch, to count my steps and all of this sort of stuff, and it tells you how well your sleep is. It says, you got 6 hours sleep and 4 of it.
That's right.
All that sort of stuff. But I've noticed that over the last couple of months, with me building up to this meeting that I've got on Tuesday, I've got sleep deprivation. I now get home and legitimately I'm starting to fall asleep. As soon as I sit in the chair, I start to watch something like the news that's on at 6 o'clock. The next time I wake up, it's 8 o'clock in the night, and I'm going, well, bloody, that's 2 hours gone, and I probably won't sleep tonight, and I'll have a problem now sleeping when I go into bed. And it'll be 2 in the morning, and
I honestly think that's an age thing, because I do the same thing. I mean, I'm sitting in my chair that when I'm having my dinner, I'll sit and have my dinner, and I'll put something on TV. And I'll be like, and I can feel my eyes getting heavier and heavier, and I'll just close my eyes for a second, and before you know it, you do that shit where you're like that, and you go, oh.
What's your singing voice like anyway? By the way,
my singing voice.
Yeah, because I think you ought to acknowledge the fact that Panther's birthday was yesterday.
I did wish him birthday on Facebook.
That ain't good enough, is it? I mean, you're
right.
Scottish. You should be going. I'm Scottish, and I know it, and it's happy birthday, Panther, and all that sort of stuff, innit?
Right. Okay. Happy birthday, cunt.
I'm sure he'll appreciate it.
Right. Okay, Del. After 3, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Panther. Happy birthday
to you.
There we go. Right, anyway, more important matters. Anyway, Panther, yeah, I did wish you a happy birthday. I hope you had a good day, mate. You're almost as old as me. Fucking hell. Well, at least you certainly look at it anyway. But apart from that, yeah, I hope you had a nice day, mate.
Yeah, same from me, you arsehole.
Anyway, listen, Del. Facebook. How was your first 3 weeks being in Facebook? I mean, I know you do it for different. Well, let's be honest. I think everybody that has a YouTube channel, well, not everybody, but we've all got different reasons for doing it. My reason was I was bored and I thought I'll do something, and then it became a bit of fun, and I quite like it. You've done yours for different reasons. How have you found the first 3 weeks? Are you quite enjoying it? Are you enjoying having a? I'll be honest. I was kind of thinking, will Del want to come onto my Friday Waffles now that he's got his own channel now? I don't know.
Oh, you know damn well that at a drop of a bloody coin I'd be on a.
Well, tonight, 25 to 10. What are you doing, mate? Are you busy or whatever it was?
Yeah. So it's no.
Yeah.
I sort of mentioned it at the very beginning, but I'm not going to mention it anymore at the very beginning because anybody that's going to be watching it now sort of knows the format. But really, it was just I wanted to chat to something, and if the camera was the only thing that I was going to be talking to, then fair enough. And we've had lots of chats, and it came from an idea from you, really, that you mentioned that when you go, your daughter's not going to know what any of this stuff's all about. I mean, she knows you in and out. She knows you've got a passion for things. But when it comes to looking on your shelf, is that worth anything? Is that worth anything? And part of it is some of that, right? Because even if I don't show every book I've ever got and every video and film that I've ever got, you get the idea of some of it's expensive and some of it's not, right? But the other thing was I wanted to sort of like do a diary. Now, I used to do diaries, when I was a kid. I used to put my high scores in a book. I used to put what games I bought this week, and I used to do a tally of how much it cost me, and all that sort of stuff. And as you get older, when you get to your 20s, and your 30s and so forth, you stop doing any of that. You just basically cut to the chase and play the game that you just bought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I purposely put a news thing at the beginning because I wanted to date stamp it, because apart from watching sort of like a TV show that does a yearly wipe, at the end that says this is what happened in January, this is what happened in February, this is what happened in March, I wanted something that date stamped it that said this is what was going on in the world. And then I go into the what's been on my brain, what have I been thinking about? Sometimes it'll be news articles, and sometimes it'll be, no, what did I do for fun with all that crap that's going on in the world? You know what I mean? So it's really for people that I want to have a chat with that would get pleasure out of just listening to my crap, and then partly leaving something behind that says this is what was going on, and this is what he was watching and all that sort of stuff. I wanted it to be a pedestal, like a stepping stone for something that I might do later on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm no good at editing. I'm no good at there's a number of things that I'm good at and a number of things that I'm not good at. I'm no good at programming, but I know I'm good with computers. I know I'm okay at certain stuff, right? But this has made me start thinking about how you edit, how you remove ums and ahs. You know, it was something that I mentioned in one of my blogs. It's made me think a little bit more, and I've expressed that in a chat to the camera that says, do you know what, I've been thinking about editing. You know what I mean? And I'm starting to get my camera out. I'm going to go for a walk, you know, and take some photographs with a different lens. You know, it could be anything, you know. And
the thing about, like, from a sort of diary perspective, recording a video is probably the easiest, most unlaziest way to do it. You just put the camera on and you just talk. Whereas a diary, you've got to write it or whatever it is. You can just talk, and you're getting the warts and all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it literally was. I'm a little bit OCD, I suppose. I don't know about you, but whenever you were a child, you were taught a regime. You get up, you go to clean your teeth, you have a wash, you put your school uniform on. Your mum got you out the door with your sandwiches. You went to school. There was a break. There was a lunchtime. There was an afternoon break. You walked home. There was the homework. There was the telly. There was have the bath, go to bed, and it taught you what it was going to be like really when you left school and you were going to go into a job. And to be quite honest, with everything that's going on at the moment, I don't seem to have a regime. I try to park in the same car parking spot, believe it now. When I go to work, when I travel, it's like I'm going to have my spot. I will get there before somebody else. Somebody will not have that space. And I play a little game with myself. Like when I get to the traffic lights, if they're on red, I'll do some core routines where I hold my breath and see if I can hold my breath for about a minute and a half before I move off. And I do counting games. Right? I tell you, there's a very good routine that's good for your brain. A friend of mine tried to join the police force, and one of the training courses that he went on said you have to describe what's going on while you're driving down the street, and you're supposed to pick up what crime's going on because they do it on video. But he said it's very good for your brain because you go, right, so we're going down the street 20 miles an hour. There's a post on the left hand side. There's a woman on the right hand side with a red coat on walking a dog. We've now gone past the two posts now, and we're actually turning around to go onto the left. So I'm indicating, and you have to describe everything that you're going along.
I've done that before. I've done that as a bit of a game with Ava, and it annoys the hell out of her. But I've done that before, and I do the same thing. It's a weird thing. If I'm driving and I'm eager to get somewhere, if I've maybe got like 2 miles to go, or it doesn't matter what it is, what I do is I'll hold my breath. I'll see how long I can hold my breath. I'll see if I can hold my breath for like a mile. And obviously holding your breath is difficult, but it seems to make, in fact, it shouldn't actually work, but it actually makes that mile going quite quick. So basically I think to myself, I'm only 2 breaths away from where I'm going. Which is bloody stupid. And if the police are watching this, by the way, don't worry, I don't pass out. But yeah, I think it's impossible. You can't actually hold your breath until you die, can you? I think you would just.
No, there'll be a force. There is a force like being underwater. There's a need, right? You know, that right your mouth. There's going to be something that happens. If you're out in the air and there's oxygen and you're holding your breath, you just naturally know if I open my mouth, I'm all right.
Just
you know
come back to life.
And to cut a long story short, the reason that I like doing the blog at the moment is that when I get up on a Sunday, I know that there's something that I've got to do. So I get up a little bit earlier. I get my brain all together. I sit in front of it. I do that. I render it, upload it, and then I go for my walk. And then when I come back from my walk, it's done. Do you know what I mean? And I go, all right, that's
yeah. Right. Well, I was talking. Did you watch my? Well, of course you bloody watched it. You probably listened to it 5 times. My top tips for YouTube. I don't know if you actually.
Oh, yeah, of course I did.
And you know that they were genuine. What I think are top tips. And you know the good side and bad side. Well, I suppose you could say the good side is it gives you it can give you a bit of a routine in your life. You know, if you've not got a lot going on, it can give you a bit of routine. You've got, I mean, like for me, my Friday waffles genuinely get made on a Thursday now just because of the way my life's kind of panned out. But yeah, it's also a downside because tonight I could quite easily just go into my bed. I thought I need to get this bloody waffle done, you know, so you have to do it. And you maybe shouldn't be like that. But no, I'm glad you're enjoying it, mate, and I'm certainly enjoying listening to them. I will stick a link if you've not already subscribed to Del's channel. I'll put a link down below. Please go and subscribe. If it's shit, then don't subscribe. Give him a big fat down thumb.
Yeah.
Tell him it's shit. But no, seriously, go and support him. And while I'm on, I want to give another shout out. Actually, there's a guy that watches my streams, and I call him Keith, and he might be called Kevin. I can't bloody remember, but he's called LFC Gamer and Vlogs, I think it is.
Yeah.
I happen to look at Kevin's got. By the way, Keith, if your name's Kevin or vice versa, I do apologise. I had a look at your channel, and you've got a fantastic little channel. He just does all kinds of things. It's kind of very retro based, but I'm actually going to start doing that because I used to be a big one about YouTube community and all that. I'll be honest with you, the retro gaming community, everybody's out for themselves. Maybe
you actually posed a question, Alan, didn't you, last week? You said, do you think there are too many people that are just now starting up, etc., etc., etc.? Have you thought about that then and thought differently? Because you did say, well, I might be in a cunt saying that.
I mean, I don't have any right to say, oh, there's too many people. And I mean, you've just started off doing YouTube, and it's something that I enjoy. And I would say if anybody wants to give it a go, then give it a go. But I do think that I think we're saturated with channels and what have you. I mean, I watch I watch yours, I watch Panthers, there's maybe about half a dozen channels I watch. But as far as a community goes, I mean, there's quite a core people that watch my channel, you being one of them, and of that good community. There's other channels out there, Lactobacillus Prime, there's Down the Rabbit Hole, there's Wee Bob Art, there's various Lawn Boys post 1975, but there's people who I used to kind of know fairly well in this community, and they're all out for themselves now, as far as kind of helping each other. And I mean, like the old shout out was quite a popular thing. And over the last probably, I would say probably the last 8 years, it's kind of gone to virtually zero. And I'm going to try and make a point. I mean, I don't watch many channels, but by all means, Dale, or in fact, anybody, if anyone has got any sort of smaller channels, potentially sort of gaming based, let me know what it is. I'll watch it. If I like it, I will absolutely give you a shout out. If I don't like it, I'm not going to give you a shout out, because why would I? Why would I do that? But no, seriously, LFC Gamer and Vlogs, he's got a great wee channel. I am going to put a link to his channel below, and I'm also going to put a link to Delboys as well.
Oh, that's decent of you.
What are you up to, by the way, subscriber wise? What are you up to?
Oh, not that many, but is it 20, 27, something like that?
You need to think about this. You need to think about this differently. You say, oh, just 27. That's the fact that anybody has taken the time to say, oh, I want to see when this guy puts out a video, I'm going to hit that subscribe button. The fact that even one person is moderately interested in listening to what you've got to say, but it's not one person, it's fucking 27 people.
Well, it was something that I learned from. It was something that I learned from you. Although I was saying 27, I've noticed that the comments that are being mentioned at the moment are getting much longer. So they're asking me sort of like, oh, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Can you expand upon that a little bit, or whatever? You mentioned yourself, you don't ever want to look back and start criticizing yourself, because you're looking at yourself and going, why aren't the numbers going up? Why is this not happening? All of that sort of stuff, because you've got to think to yourself, why are you doing it? And the one thing about your hour-long chat about YouTube stuff was that I listened to that. I think I've listened to it now 4 times. Yeah, 4 times through. 3 times going for a walk, and once as a video presentation. And everything in there had a relevance that's absolutely spot on, right? Can't fault it for that. But the one thing that came on about it was that you must also do something that you're doing for yourself. You know, that's important, because if you don't do something for yourself and you don't enjoy it, it will come across, and what's the point of doing it, right?
Absolutely.
So, and this, what I'm doing is really just a blog. It's a diary. If I was the only one that was watching it, then I was the only one that's watching it, because I know that when I die or whatever it is, somebody else will be watching it and going, "Oh, was that what my uncle was then? Was that what my brother was?" That was, you know what I mean? Which is part of what the intended audience is. So it's not like there isn't a purpose to it. That's it. There is a purpose. What might happen after this is, I don't know, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, I might start talking more in depth about retro gaming and all sorts of stuff, you know, like you do. It expands into something that you want it to expand into. Right now, it's just a diary. And I can't stress enough how important it was listening to the things that you were saying in your videos. You entertain me a lot. And I mention you in my blogs because there are key things in your videos that I want people to appreciate if they ever want to go back. I think I mentioned that there was a teardown that you did of Soft Aid, and it just happened and that just happened to happen because I did a search after I played a new game, a retro game that had just come out, and that was in my brain, that was in my head, and the first thing I did was a YouTube search, and the first thing that came up in my YouTube thing was your bloody face again. So of course, then I sit down and I watch that, and there's another hour of my life gone by where I'm watching it. But at the end of the day, I came away from it going, I enjoyed that. I've seen it before, but I watched it again. It's great. And then it turned into a 2-minute segment in my blog. So absolutely everything had something that took me away from boring, horrible things that I would have dwelled upon because I wasn't thinking about it.
Well, that's the important thing. And again, I go back to what I was saying. I mean, there's a lot of real nasty shit going on at the moment, and it's thoroughly depressing. But at the end of the day, life's still got to go on, and you've still got to, you can be sympathetic and etc. about what's going on in the world, but ultimately you've still got to. You don't want to let yourself get dragged down into this bottomless pit where you just can't face. I mean, my sister was actually telling me, my sister's a pupil support person. In fact, this has actually got relevance to retro gaming, which I'll come on in a second. See, I'm doing a Billy Connell, I talk about something, I go, oh, wait a minute, that reminds me of something else. She was telling me that she's got part of her, she's a pupil support, and she is on minimum wage. They get shit money. And the stuff that my sister does, I mean, it was her birthday. It was her birthday a couple of weeks ago, and the school actually put a picture up saying, "To Mrs. Sutherland, we love you loads. What could we do without you?" And they gave her a big bouquet of flowers. So they think the world of her, but they're absolutely shit paid. They really are. Anyway, she's part of her kind of role is she's like a counsellor for kids that have got issues, whatever. Yeah. And she was telling me that there's one wee boy, he's absolutely terrified that he's going to get killed with a nuclear bomb. And this is constant having to try and reassure him that, it'll not happen, it'll not happen, and all that. And right now, nobody knows what's going to happen. Absolutely none. Nobody knows where we're going to go with this. I mean, you see, I think there's been a few more positives in the last couple of days that we could reach some kind of solution, but we're still. And what I kind of think is not funny. That's the wrong kind of phrase. They say we're having peace talks or negotiations, but in the meantime, we're still going to bomb the fuck out of you. You know?
Yeah.
Instead of putting it on hold and saying, right, let's have a wee talk. Let's see if we can get some common ground. Right, nah, I don't like that. Right, fuck it. Let's start bombing again. They continue to kill people whilst they're having these chats, but. You know, it's where am I going with this again? I can't remember. But you know, so that this wee boy is in such a dark place. He's genuinely terrified. He's, his mum and dad have been up to the school, and it's awful, you know, it really is. So you've got to, whilst you've got to have an awareness of what's going on around you, you've still got to be like me and be like a fanny and just have a bit of a laugh and talk about playing 40-year-old Spectrum games. I mean, you can't get more far removed. You can't get more far removed from Ukraine war than me playing some shit Spectrum game. But you have to. We've got to keep our heads, keep looking ahead, and knowing, and we'll know that things will work out. You know.
Yeah, I must admit, this is one of the things that I like about the community and like hanging around on a Sunday when you're playing a game, because I think it said part 4 of the Spectrum celebration of 40 years. And I like to come in with a comment that'll probably say, yeah, let's see if we can get past 15 games this week, because we're going to be up to part 27 if we don't start playing some games. You have a bit of a laugh, but what I'm trying to say is you become part of a community. There's a lot of people that you start chatting to. You get entertained by seeing you trying to get a game to load, let alone play. Level 2, Jesus. Just to take the piss out of you a little bit. But what you have to understand is you've become a routine for me, but a routine that entertains me constantly, which the telly would probably never have done in the 80s. Do you know in the 80s when you used to sit down and you go, right, I'm watching this week's Buck Rogers, I'm watching this week's, I don't know, Will-O the Wisp, Ivor the Engine, whatever it was, right? But this is where you can actually communicate and chat to people while you're doing it, right? And that still blows my mind now, because I'm having a one-on-one chat with all these people while we're all watching a master try and play a game. Do you know what I mean? So that to me is great. But about this little lad, do you know any more? Is it getting better for this lad? Or
I don't know. My sister, I was talking to my sister. I was up at my sister's on Friday for her birthday, and she was talking about it. And it's just, she doesn't go into any details. Obviously, it's GPDR and all that kind of stuff. But you just think, bloody hell. I mean, the thing is, as a kid growing up in the 80s, and you have been the same, Dale. I mean, I wouldn't say genuinely terrified, but I was concerned about what was going to happen, because it was all over the news, and Frankie goes to Hollywood, 2 tribes go to war, and all this kind of stuff. It was a very, very real threat, it really, really was. Anyway, I'm going to kind of turn it around to something more positive. My sister said to me, I don't suppose, she says, one of the head teachers was asking her. She was telling her that they've got some kind of game design course.
Oh.
And she said, "Oh, my wee brother. Yeah, I'm not the oldest. My wee brother is into his old games. He's got a YouTube channel. Oh, right. I'll ask him." So she says to me, "Do you know anybody that designs games?" I went, "I've got quite a few." So 5 minutes later, John here had confirmed, not a problem. Here's my email address. Pass it on. So there you go. And I said to her, "I've just given you John." "Oh, who's that?" I said, told him what he'd been doing. I says, he's a cracking guy. I says, everybody I've ever spoken to, has been nice, but he it was a 5 hour. The second part was 5 hours, and it was like, right, it's getting late. We need to call it a day. But he's a cracking guy. But there you go. YouTube, it's the hobby infiltrates every part of my life. It's quite funny. And I was down at tonight after work. I mentioned that I was down doing a not getting interviewed. I was doing it's the 60th anniversary of the Livingston, so they wanted. There's a Livingston Facebook page, and they were wanting people that had kind of lived in the town for a long, long time. So I got somebody said to me about it. So the guy contacted me, "You interested in doing something?" I said, "That's fine." So my sister, she was along on Wednesday, and she had a script. She had it all written down in front of her. And when I was there today, the guy said to me, "Oh, your sister was great. She was really nervous, but she was really, really good." And he went, "So have you got any notes?" I went, "Nah, and I'll just make it up." I goes, "What do you want me to talk about?" Right, that's fine. Boom. And away I went, and then we were talking away, and I can't remember what he was talking. He said about, and I in fact, he was. I said, make sure you press start on the camera. He went, "Oh yeah." And I goes, "Oh," I says, I've done. I said, I make sort of videos for a bit of fun. I says, it's not the first time that I've done an interview or a whatever it is. I says, and then I realised, shit, I haven't actually started the camera. I went, "We've all been there. We've all done it." And then he's like, "Oh, what's your YouTube channel about?" I went, "Oh, it's like old video games." "Oh, what's it called, Main Meister?" "Oh, great, I'll have a look at it."
Now, do you remember I asked you that question, didn't I? Because I started to expand upon channels that I'd been starting to watch, and I was watching one that involved Ellie Gibson. And Ellie Gibson, if anybody knows, is a big journalist and a games player. And she asked the question, do you think YouTubers now should put on their CV that they are a broadcaster or whatever? And I asked you the question, would you consider yourself now more than what you are in a CV? Would you be embarrassed to put that you're a director or a producer or you know? I think it was a bit more basic than that, but that was the reason why I put the question. I think you are. You've learned tips. You've learned things that are skill sets that somebody might pick up upon.
Well, yeah, I don't think was that the question I kept forgetting to answer, was it?
No, that's every week.
I know it is. I deliberately ignore you right enough.
Yeah, not fine. I'm going, yeah, all right. What is it now? 5 weeks? Yeah, all right.
No, I mean, you know what? It's, you're absolutely correct. I mean, just because you say you broadcast, that doesn't mean to say that you're any good at it or whatever. You could have a video channel and nobody watches it, but the whole point is you're still recording your voice, you're sitting in front of a camera, you're making content, whatever. So no, I would definitely say yes. If somebody asked me, you know, my hobbies, whatever, and I mean, I would absolutely say that, because like I went along to this thing today and my sister was really nervous, and I'm like, I couldn't care. And I mean, I've said this before, if BBC Scotland were to phone me up and says, "Listen, Robert, that Rab Florence, he was absolutely shitting Games Master. We've seen that you've got a channel. Do you fancy coming along to BBC Scotland and having a crack?" Fine. It wouldn't faze me in the slightest.
No.
I mean, even when I did, and I don't mind mentioning it because I'm quite proud of it. When I was doing in Blackpool and I did 2 of the talks, you're sitting with 200 people, you're behind a desk, and you're leading the whole thing. That takes a bit of balls, you know, and for me anyway. And YouTube has 100% given me so much more confidence. It really has. I was never an unconfident person, but the thought of standing up or talking to people or whatever would like fill me with complete dread. But now it doesn't bother me. I think as you get older, you learn to realise, what's the point? I don't give a shit, you know what I mean?
And this is what's really fun about it, because 1 week I'll throw a philosophical question like that at you that you could probably spend 5 minutes discussing, or a 10-minute discussion. The next one it'll be, doesn't Special K taste different this year? You know, have you got a food that you think tastes differently? Which was the last question I probably asked you. But what I'm trying to say is, there's a fun aspect to it, because there's one that you could that seriously that you might have something that you want to really expand upon, and there's another one that goes, yeah, aren't wagon wheels shit, you know, and then you just move on to the next thing. You know, it's that sort of thing that makes it entertaining. You ain't going to find that on BBC, folks. I tell you that much, right? Yeah, that's why YouTube, I think, is sort of like my channel 6. You know what I mean? You know, where we've got BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, Channel 4, Channel
You know
5.
what I find?
It's like Channel 6, pretty much, you know?
You know what I find quite interesting? I've always you know, there's always been people that will always ask me a question without fail. And I always thought to myself, why would they want to do that? What are they getting out of it? What, you know, I'm just a guy who, all right, people watch. I'm just a normal bloke like everybody else. Why the fuck are they interested in what my opinion is on a certain game or what was my first computer or whatever? But then you've got a channel now and I'm going to enjoy asking you a question. It's a weird thing. It's just, you know, you think, oh, what was, you know, when was the first time you saw a video game? What did you think of it? Or, you know, what was the game? What was the present you really wanted for Christmas, which you never got? And it's interesting, and no disrespect to you, you're like me, you're just a nobody, you're just a bloke, you're a random person. But there's something quite interesting about typing a question onto YouTube and waiting to see what the person says. It's not like you're asking, I don't know, bloody Sean Connery. Well, obviously it's going to be hard now, unless you dig the Ouija board out. But, you know, it's not like we're asking somebody famous. It's interesting just asking a person that question. It's a weird thing.
Like I said, it's great. Something happened this week that sort of like proves a point a little bit here, and that is that what this pandemic has done has changed everybody's lives. But for my mother and pensioners, who I feel are the people that have suffered pretty much the worst at the moment. I asked my mother what's happened today, and she said, I've sat in front of the window watching the world go by for probably about 5 hours today. And I can tell you exactly what's going on in my neighbours' houses at the moment. There's a lovely lad over the road. He's 4 years old. He calls me Bow now. He comes over and I give him a packet of Smarties every couple of days. And then she turned around and said, they put their house up for sale down the street. Can you go on to the internet and tell me how much they put it up for? Because I'm really nosing. I want to know whether it's worth more than the house I've got at the moment. But the one thing that I got out of that is that my mother's YouTube is the window that she looks out of every day. And I said, look, I don't want the street to think that you're the Queen Mother just waving your hand like that, like your royalty going past. Go out for a walk, mum, whatever, but she won't. And I just happy that she's got something to do, even if it's just watching something out there. But
that's you're absolutely right. I mean, you're saying the window is your mum's YouTube. It's just another thing to. At the moment, with you and I, with Facebook and YouTube, we look at a screen and we see things happening, whatever it is. Your mum's the same. Her screen is the window. One of the best comments I've had for a long, long time was Dave Connolly last week when he made that thing about he used to see these old guys with their boats and he thought, that's fucking pointless. They're not even doing anything with them. They're building, they're putting them into water and they're moving them back and forwards. And he says, and then he says, here we are, 40 years later, YouTube is his boat. It's pointless. It's pointless. It may appear pointless to other people, but it's his thing. It's his, and it's right. It's it's great. It's great. Just listen. It's getting quite late anyway. I've got some questions which I want to run through. I just want to quickly touch on the video, that impromptu video that I made with Neil on Tuesday when we attempted to get the Commodore games, and that's what it's called, working. Now I know a few people. Spoiler: it doesn't work in the end. Some people were upset. They're like, "Oh, you bastard! It didn't work." Well, trust me, when we were recording it, we didn't know that it wasn't going to work. And I said, I thought, well, we'll just video everything. We'll video me putting the batteries into the thing. We'll video me trying to get it tuned. We'll video Neil fucking about with the voltmeter and all that. And ultimately, I probably blew it up with turning the polarity back. I actually got a message from I'm not going to mention who it is. A guy, one of the guys that watches my channel. He's helped out in the past with bits and pieces, and he says I was screaming no when you were going to change the polarity. He says you don't do that. But anyway, he has very kindly offered. He says send me it. I'll have a look at it. I'll also modify it so that it'll composite. It'll make it composite. But
and there's another positive to the community, isn't it? Yeah. You would never have got that, would you?
Exactly. And he said to me, "You can send your Binatone machine at the same time. I'll mod that." And I went, "Oh, that's good." I goes, "I don't suppose you can do ColecoVision's Atari 7800s and Atari 2600." He goes, "I'll do all 5 of you." He says, "At cost." He says, "Get them all sent down. Don't bother with power bricks or anything. I'll get them all composite." So if it's composite, is that just like a single cable then? Is that how it works?
Well, it's just another connection to the TV. You know, there's component, composite.
Right. So will that plug into a modern TV? Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And it basically means you'll get a nice crisp picture as well.
Well, you should do. Like I say, it's you're going away from an RF signal, a radio, a frequency channel, into something that's more a video channel. Now, the one thing I noticed about that Commodore machine you've got is I think the speaker's built into the unit, so it wouldn't. So the sound wouldn't even be coming from the telly.
Mm-hmm.
I thought one of the ways that you could tell whether that machine was broken or not was for you to turn it on and press the serve button so that you could hear it going blip.
Aye, well, you could hear it initially, and then even after I changed the polarity and I put it back again, it was making a noise. But you could hear it humming, and then it just was, it's not making a humming anymore. But he also said that he would recap all the machines as well.
There's a lot of capacitors in there. I think there's
So that's really kind of him. So I will do a kind of mainmeister look at once, because I mean I've got my ColecoVision. I've probably used it once because I can't be arsed having to fuck about and try and get it tuned in. It's the same with Atari 7800 and Atari 2600. You know, so I'll definitely use them once I get that.
Did it make you go away and look at the history of that machine that you've got?
No, not really. No. No, I did.
This is the second machine in Commodore's Pong range that you've got, right?
Yeah.
And it's that year Commodore bought MOS Technology, the chip company. So this was one of the first Pong machines that actually had a chip purposely built for it to play Pong, where Pong was constructed in a totally different way in all the other units before it. So yours has got a chip in there that's one of Commodore's first chips, programmable chips. And you can always tell whether you've got the American version or the English version because of the numbering that's on that chip.
Yeah.
Right. And therefore you've got a piece of history because you've got one of Commodore's first chips. So I would turn around and say, do you know what? As a sort of curiosity piece, just keep that because that's a piece of history there. And it's also one of the first chips Commodore ever produced for themselves. So
so I'm looking forward to getting it back. Listen, what I'm going to do, Dale, I'm going to read through some of the questions. We could both give our answers, and then we'll call it a night. Okay. Right, Mr. Dave Conley, thanks for reading that essay of mine. Very nicely read, by the way. I'll send you an email shortly to see if I can get you onto my channel for a special guest appearance. Excellent. Before I forget, Friday Waffle question. What are the top 3 sound effects from any Commodore 64 games? And I'll let you go first.
Smashing. You've had a chance to read that question and come up with your answer.
Well, listen. Well, tell you what. I'll give you a break then. I'll do mine because I've talked about this in the past. In no particular order. I mean, sound effects. Bloody hell, sound effects. Man, I was going to. Well, would it be classed as music? I mean, one of the most impressive no, we'll call it noise. One of the most impressive noises to come out the Commodore 64.
I've got my screen now when you're ready.
Is the bagpipes in World Games. That is fucking phenomenal. It is mind-blowingly accurate. How somebody was able to recreate the bagpipes on a Commodore 64 is just incredible. Right, and again, in no particular order, one of my favourite sound effects, let me think, would be, again, it's Martin Galway. There's a bit of a common theme. Is when you break the high score record in an event in Hypersports, it does this little kind of anthem, and it's like the crowd going woo, woo, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Number 3. I mean, there's loads of impressive things. It's a game I detest. I know it was Lacosa's favourite, but I detest the game, and it's Mission Impossible. But that, another visitor. Stay a while. Stay forever.
Another visitor. Stay a while. Stay forever.
It's fantastic. It's even got the guy talks with an accent. I mean, that is amazing. But that's not technically a sound effect. I'm trying to think of another sound effect. In fact, my 2 answers have both been used. Go on there. You answer yours when I try and think.
Basically, you got one of them, which was the speech out of Impossible Mission, because it is a sound effect. Speech is a sound, and it's an effect, and therefore it is a sound effect.
Sorry, I've got it. Sorry, right, you go. I've got my favourite. Sorry, you go.
But the second favourite sound effect would have been probably one of the fire sound effects that you get in any Jeff Minter game. Because he sort of mix and matches his sound effects. Sometimes he'll go back to an old one. Sometimes he'll make a unique one. But the sound effects that come out of a Jeff Minter game, I couldn't choose just one. But when you're firing, and every single game's probably got some fire mechanism in it, the sound effect is always spot on. I can't
completely agree. I mean, I think Jeff Minter is probably, some people may say Andrew Braybrook, but I think Jeff Minter is the king of sound effects in games. Even in really, really early stuff like Rid Runner. I mean, when you get killed, it comes up, it goes, I can't even remember the sound effect, but it's like, got you, and it's awesome. I mean, his sound effects are second to none. But I've got another 2. Have you got anything else?
I would give an honourably mention to, if you're not talking about the speech in Impossible Mission, probably the steps when you're running along, because they have an echo to them. It goes sort of like,
aye, he's running on a guinea.
That every time I hear that noise, I go, that's from that game. I know exactly where it's from. So it must be quite an iconic sound, because people will go, yeah, I recognise the steps.
He's running. It's like he's running on a sort of a metallic kind of metal James Bond sort of style thing, before it blows up. Right, before I forget mines. In second place, I'm going to go for. It's one of the most diabolically, graphically shittest games I've ever seen before, and it was actually on Soft Aid, and it's a Beam Rider. It's when you first start the level, it goes bloop 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 bloop. Then you move the joystick and it goes bring. And it's like a spring. It's wow. It's amazing. I have not done a very good version of it, but it's the little noise that it does as the level starts. I'll see if I can. I'll try and remember to put in this video.
That was one of those games where I turned around and said, "You don't need a musical score for this game. This is just playing the game and hearing the effects that are going around. You know, even if there's like just a dull thud in the background that's got a beat, you know, like boom, 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 boom. That's all you need in that game. You don't need any tune or 6-minute oddity or something going on. You just don't need it.
But yeah, the tune when you start Beam Rider is bloody awesome. But my favouriteest sound effect, and it is awesome. I don't give a shit what anybody says. You cannot fault it. It is so impressive, and I think it does vary from computer to computer. But every time I hear it, I'm like, wow! And it's the sound effect. It's in Beachhead. It's when you're in the level when you're trying to shoot down the planes, and they come over. They go. You hear that, and it just puts a chill down my spine. It is an aeroplane passing overhead. It's phenomenal.
The plane banking effect, where it comes towards you and then flies off at a slight angle.
I remember hearing that for the very first time, and it was in that computer shop that I'm not going to talk about because I talk about it every waffle. I heard the guy was playing it, and I was just like, wow, that is real.
I must admit, because we talk quite often, I thought you were going to mention possibly a sound effect from Raid Over Moscow. So I'm glad that you got Beachhead in, because Raid Over Moscow, I know, is one of those games where you go, I play that, and I do love playing that game.
I do enjoy it, sir.
And you're always in that little ship. And I was bound. I thought you were going to say something like the thrust or something from that little ship when I'm trying to go through there. That sound is really
actually.
Really fun.
That's another one, actually. The in level 1 in Beachhead, Beachhead Raid Over Moscow, I should say. When, as you say, the thrusting, and it's the thrusting engines, that is damned impressive. Now, obviously, it was Bruce Carver and Roger Carver that did the two games, so they obviously nailed the sound effects. I can't even begin. I would love. Was it Roger or Bruce that died maybe about 6-7 years ago?
I'm not sure, because you're much better with names than I am.
Yeah, it was one of them. One of them passed away. I'll actually, you know what I'll need to do? That's just reminding me. I'll need to see if I can try and find whatever one did die. If that makes sense. And I'm going to try and track him down. What's to lose? That would be an absolute bloody honour to have him on my channel.
Oh yeah,
that would be amazing. But yeah, that's my sound effects. So listen, Dave, thank you very, very much. Colin Jones. Let's see if editing is like. Are there too many retro channels? No. Are there too many for one person to follow? Yes. Absolutely.
That's a damn good statement. Yeah.
It is. Absolutely. I can't tell someone who's interested to not start a channel, but you can't promise I'll watch it unless I find the content interesting. Absolutely, you know. Right, anyway, question for next waffle. How many muscles did you pull trying to lift that Sony Trinitron you just picked up? None. No, absolutely fine. It weighs an absolute. It's a bastard. I mean, you forget how. I actually asked my mate Neil a stupid question because he came down with me to pick it up, and I says, "Why do they weigh so much?" He goes, "It's all the glass of the screen. That's why it weighs. That's why it weighs what it does." But no, I was absolutely fine. Proper question before Game Base. what was the most complex emulator you ever successfully set up and got working? For me, this would be the Dreamcast Rycast, which was even more tricky than Dolphin for the Wii. I mean, I've been using GameBase for bloody a long time, probably 10 years. I'm trying to think of complicated emulators. I mean, most of the sort of like the 8 bits, you just had to just click on the image and away you went. I know the Atari 800 one, you had to have the BIOS. You had to pick the BIOS, but I mean, the most complicated emulator even now, and I think you'd probably agree, Dell, is WinUAE, because it's quite a complex thing to do. You need to know what you're doing. I mean, you can just open it up and run it once you've kind of installed or pointed towards the kickstarts, but to actually tune it properly, you've got to kind of know where you are with it. Is that one that you use much?
Yeah, I mean, I use there's two obviously Amiga emulators that are out there. WinUAE, you know, like you mentioned, there's one that's slightly more simplified.
FS.
Yeah,
that's what I use. Yeah,
and the Amiga one has always been one that I think a lot of people are scared of, but I think you and I have got a little bit of an advantage in the fact that I'm not scared of trying something new, because I tell you what, the hardest emulator that I ever got to set up was MESS, something called MESS, MESS, right?
Yeah.
And that was a pig, because that, like, MAME was trying to do everything with arcades, MESS was trying to do everything with machines. And that's where you were talking about BIOSes and all of that sort of stuff. So there was a VIC-20 in there, a Commodore 64 Spectrum. There was a BIOS. You had to tell it where all the ROMs went into. Then there was all of the different ports that you had to configure for the joysticks. And it was all in one front end. And I tell you, by the time I got to the end of it, I probably got one machine to work properly, and the rest would have some problem in it that I could never figure out.
It was obviously called MESS for a reason.
Oh, yeah. But I think now that answer that I've given there has either given a lot of people a nostalgia trip, because it's like, oh God, I've forgotten about MESS, or it's made people think. I'm hoping it's told people, don't be scared about trying to do something new, because what can you really do other than uninstall it and reinstall it and try again, right? You're not really going to break too much, you know. Don't be too scared to.
The one thing that I always remember, obviously MAME. You know, I did a kind of MAME edition waffle a few weeks ago, and back then you just downloaded all the ROMs, new version, downloaded all the ROMs, and then when MAME started to get ridiculously big, this thing called, was it Clear Pro or Clear
MAME,
whatever it was. And basically what this does is, to let people that don't understand MAME emulates arcade ROMs, and the guys that do MAME, they want to try and emulate it as accurately as possible. And so the ROMs that work on one version may not work on a new version. So the bottom line is, you could download a complete ROM MAME set, all the games, and they'll all work. And then you download, and I found that out to my cost, you download a new version of MAME and you find that your favourite games don't work. Like, why the hell is that? I don't understand that. And it's because it needs a new ROM. Now, I in my stupidity, I thought I could just go in and rename a ROM, and it doesn't work like that. But this program is designed, and what it does is there's a kind of, you import like a kind of file into it.
A DAT file.
A DAT file, yep. I knew I'd brought you in for a reason. And then you then point to your current MAME ROM set, and then it kind of changes them all to make them compliant or compatible with the new version. But what's it called then? Clear MAME?
Clear MAME. Yeah, and it was more like, it's almost like it was an audit program. It basically audited your ROMs and said, look, you're missing this. And you then had to go away and find that thing that it was. Do you see what I mean? So,
but it's even to this day, it's one of the most convoluted, complex, complicated programs I'll ever use. And in my stupidity or naivety, I set this. You need to remember, this was before broadband. This was when it took me months and months and months. I had this ROM set, and I think it said, can you point to where your ROMs are? And it's like, C drive, MAME ROMs. Can you point to where you want to put your new ROMs? Oh, I'll just put it in the same folder. Why not? And then when I got up the following morning, went to load up MAME, not one bloody game would run. And what it had done, it overwritten everything. It just fucked everything.
Yeah, but you only did that once, because then you'd back up everything, because it's like, right, I'm having a backup of that before I do that again, because I ain't going to ruin absolutely everything before. And I was a little bit like you, because I first got this and I could not get my head around it, because I think it was DOS based. It was more command line, type in what you wanted to do. But the thing that you learn from having a program like that was keeping a store named correctly so that you could find it again. And the other thing was, if you couldn't get it working, you knew full well that, oh, well, that means it's going to take me an extra 2 or 3 hours for me to actually download the whole set again, because I don't mind, because it's my favorite program. But I do know that I'm a dunce, because I could probably get this up and running in 2 minutes if I knew what I was doing, because I only need about 2 files. But because I'm such a dunce, I'm going to spend the next 2 hours downloading the files, because I'm only on dial-up, which means I'm going to hear all that screeching, that. And then I'm going to have my AOL program turn around and say, you got mail. And then I'm going to start looking on the web, right? Looking for all these ROMs again, where if I could just crack this program, it'll take me 2 minutes.
Yeah. Here's the thing I've always thought about. When, again, I don't know anything about this. If, just supposing you've got a Double Dragon arcade board and you want to create a ROM.
Yeah.
There's obviously, do you take the chip out and put it into a machine and then it reads the ROMs or something? Is that?
Well, Ponder will give you a better answer than I could, but it depends on how far back you're looking at an arcade board, because some are so easy that the game is on a chip and you just basically take the chip out and you put it into a device that can read that chip, just like the board is reading the chip. And you can dump the code, right? So there you've got everything. But as arcade boards got more complex, there's what they call protection on the chips, because there are special chips that do special things like create the screen, make the sound, do all of this sort of stuff. And they wanted to protect their code. So basically, then you've got to break the protection. Otherwise, everybody would be cloning boards, wouldn't they? They'd be able to come out with a clone for everything.
Right.
So depending on how far back you're going, you're quite right. You probably just need a program that you can dump all of the code off of that chip. But then as you go later on, it's a much more complex.
So see if you unzip, just say Double Dragon, you'll have maybe 20 files and it'll be called A701P, AB170P.
And that is the 20 special chips that were on that board.
So yeah, but for each little ROM, that's a chip.
Yes.
Okay, I understand that. But why is it when you downloaded, say, the very, very first version of MAME, Double Dragon, it would have maybe 6 ROMs. Then when they brought out a new version, it said, oh, we've improved the sound, it would have 8 ROMs. Does that mean that they were only ripping so many chips originally?
It probably meant that they found another revision of it, or they cracked the protection that was on the 2 chips that they couldn't protect before, which is why it would say the video is 100%, but the sound is not. You remember, you've got a disclaimer that always comes up.
Yeah.
Like something right or wrong.
Aye, because I know when in fact, the reason I picked Double Dragon was when I got my last arcade cabinet. It's a Jammer, and it came with the guy gave me a loan of his Double Dragon, and it was like 2 big, massive motherboards, and there was about 100 bloody chips in each board.
Yeah,
which is mental. So basically, each little ROM is a chip, and the reason why you might get more ROMs with later versions is because they've managed to kind of crack them or they've got a different version, whatever. Interesting. What was the bloody question again? I can't even remember what the hell he was talking about. Yeah, he was talking about emulators that are a bastard to set up. So, yeah, Clear Pro main, whatever the hell it's called. And that one that you mentioned.
Mesh.
What was the one?
Mesh.
Yeah, Mesh. So, thank you, Colin. Right, the main man, we were talking about him earlier on, LFC Gamer and Vlogs. Kevin, Keith, Colin, can't bloody remember.
all that's done is sensitize you now to that name because you're never going to get it right. Doesn't matter how
I'm sure it's Keith, but I'm sure Colin will tell me if it's wrong. Talking about home conversions that are better than arcade counterparts, one of my favourites is Renegade for the Spectrum. Oh, fuck, I was playing that. Specifically the 128 version. It is also pretty decent on the C64. And although I've not played the Amstrad port, I can only assume that it's good on there too. Yeah, I think the Amstrad was meant to be that's one of the go-to games on the Amstrad as Renegade. I think it was the
colour, wasn't it? Somebody said it was the colour that made that game.
It's got really, yeah. I can't remember exactly how many colours the Amstrad can display, but it's when it's done right, it looks bloody spectacular. I was laughing. Sorry, again, slightly gaming related. I was watching The Apprentice a couple of nights ago, and they had to create a video game. And Alan Sugar said, "Well, I know all about video games." He said because back in 1985, I brought out a computer, and then his co-host goes, "Oh yeah, I had an Amstrad." And then he goes, and it had 1,500 games. And then Alan Sugar goes, "Yeah, I wrote 1,500 games." I thought, you lying bastard, you didn't write any of the games.
I know what he means, though, because everything came through Amsoft, didn't it?
Cuthbert on the ropes.
I know what he meant, but he didn't write them. No.
Yeah, no, I know. I think, but... anyway, so yeah, I think the Amstrad one is really good.
I wonder if you'd have took the piss out of him even more and said, "Yeah, actually, I was a little bit like you, Alan, because I've got a wheelbarrow and I sold a load of pirated versions of your album out on a market stall. So we're very much alike, aren't we, really, Alan?"
Right, Ian Hunter, hi Alan. Is it me or are these waffles getting shorter?
Not today, no.
Okay, hell. Not a waffle question, but as I've never owned an Acorn machine, how about devoting a live Sunday to Acorn games from the Atom up to the Archimedes, perhaps? Apologies if you've already done this, but I've been out of circulation for a few weeks. I would give it a go. The problem is, and I've found that to my cost, when you start being a C64 guy, I never ever use keys, and I don't mean admitting I struggle big time with keys. And, you know, you've seen me making an arse of myself trying to play games and it's keys and keys. And the problem with the BBC, all these Acorn machines, they're all going to be keys only, aren't they?
Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing that you could probably definitely turn around and say that you will do, or you'll make a concerted effort to do, is the next time that you're doing a Sunday stream where there's multiple games, if somebody mentions the Amiga version of Cannon Fodder, put the Archimedes version on.
All right, okay.
You know, because the Amiga had Zarch, which is that virus type program.
Yeah.
And the Archimedes is where it came from. So you go, right, let's play the Archimedes of that. You know that there's a Cannon Fodder. You know that there's a Lemmings. You know that there's a. Just try and play an Archimedes version of it.
There was also a game began with C. It was a kind of tank game, and it used the same Conqueror and it used the same kind of engine as Zark. But you know what? I think the problem I've got when I do something like the 40th anniversary of the Spectrum, I've got 100 games to get through, and I'm trying to kind of rush through them. Maybe if I was going to do, I'm conscious I do kind of stick to the Commodore 64. It's just because that's what I know. That's the games I know. I've got a heritage with them. I've got the the knowledge, etc. I don't have that with any other machine, but I would more than happily do like a live stream with the BBC. But I think I would say, right, it's going to be 2 hours. We're probably going to get through maybe a dozen games, and I actually have to persevere. I'm always conscious. I know there's a running joke with me being shit at games and that, but I'm always conscious.
Don't know where that came from.
When I'm when I'm trying to fuck about my game and I'm like, I can't get this, I can't figure it out, or the keys are ridiculous. I rightly or wrongly, you may tell me, well, no, it's still entertaining. I think, right, this is shit. I'm getting nowhere. People are going to get bored stiff seeing me just fanning about trying to get it working. And then I say, right, fuck it, let's move on to something else. Then inevitably you get the comments, oh, you stupid. Do you play for the cameras? Are you really that thick that you can't get a game working? Because I become aware that I'm wasting time trying to get a game working and this isn't entertaining, right? Fuck it, let's move on. But maybe I should say, right, fuck it, you know what? I'll play half a dozen games and I'll play it until I get, play each game for 15 minutes, something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's what I need to do.
In your defense, you have spent some time with the BBC B and the Electron. I know you have. You've devoted a Sunday to them. And the biggest problem that you ever had was getting the joystick to work, which is why you said, I hate keys. And the screen was always small. And that's when you know what I mean? You were always doing this, that, and the other to try and get it to work. But the hardest thing I would say now about this is that you're probably at the busiest time of your life at the moment, because if you think about it, the Commodore 64 is 40 years old at the same time as the Spectrum is 40 years old. And at the time of that, the BBC was just before that. The VIC-20s was just before that. And until you get to something like the Amstrad or something, where that's a really well-known machine, you're going to be doing a 40-year Dragon 32, a 40-year. I'll tell you what, by the time you get through them all, the whole year would have gone by and you've still left 5 machines out. There's going to be somebody that's going to be upset because you didn't do the Auric Atmos or
Actually, I've got the best setup that I managed to acquire, the CoinOps, which I've been using a lot. There's a CoinOps 2 which I've downloaded, and it supports the same emulators and that kind of stuff, and it's really well implemented. They've incorporated Atari 800, they've incorporated Commodore 64, Spectrum, and BBC. So it's all controlled using the Xbox 360 controller. Yep. The only thing I can't do, and I need to figure out how to do it, CoinOps always displays full screen, and it looks lovely because they've got like the CRTV, and it's got all the kind of artifacts and the scratches. Yeah. It looks absolutely stunning. If I can figure out how I can record or stream a full screen, oh no, wait a minute, I can use StreamYard. Yeah, because OBS does not support full screen.
Right.
And the software that I use for rendering videos and that, it doesn't do full screen. I've answered one question I can use. So yeah, listening, I absolutely will. I'll do a BBC one because I know all the games are set up for joystick. I mean, I don't know how many games there are. There's maybe 20 or 30, but I'm sure there'll be enough to entertain people for a couple of hours.
Well, I'd certainly look forward to seeing some Archimedes stuff, because I will say this: I don't think you've loaded any more than about 5 or 6 games for the Archimedes. So I think that'd be really good to see a couple of Archimedes games.
Aye, absolutely. Right, listen, and the very, very last comment. It's not a question as such. Highlander, no sarcasm was intended at all. I don't know what he's talking about. I genuinely cannot believe people take the time to sit and criticise someone's gaming skills in a live stream.
Yeah.
It seems utterly pointless and stupid.
This was about that guy that turned around and said to you, well, they just keep coming back and saying, are you having a laugh? I'm unsub this sort of stuff.
He was a cunt, basically.
Just annoys me.
He's a cunt, and I hope he's watching this. You're a cunt, and you can't reply because you know you're a
Yeah.
cunt. So why don't you fuck off my channel and go and do something? Go and do something yourself. Try and do something and entertain people, eh?
Yeah, that's a different type of cunt than what he calls me. It's the worst version.
You're as I said, there's a phrase in Scotland. He's a good cunt. You're a good cunt. Yeah. Listen, Craig or Del. Thank you very much for joining me. Literally a moment's notice. We've managed
my pleasure, honestly.
No, good stuff. We've managed to irk over an hour out. So, listen, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a nice weekend, and I'll probably will be. Yeah, I will. I noticed the views on last Sunday's stream are quite a bit more than the previous Sundays, and it's because I think the sweet spot is the 7 o'clock to 9. Doing it at 4 till 6, people are got other things on. I will continue to do it when it suits me, but I don't mind doing them at 7 till 9 again. So I will hope all things going well. I will be along on Sunday for the usual stream, and it's going to be part 4, is it?
Yeah,
what number?
Part 4.
What number are we up to? Is it? I
think it's part 4.
Right. Anyway, listen, guys. I will see you all on Sunday. Thanks again, Del. Have a great weekend, and as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.